All right. We are live. We are live. And on today's episode, can Christians celebrate Halloween? Or should Christians celebrate Halloween? I think this is we talked about this last year or last Halloween. We did an episode on this, but it's a thing every year that keeps coming up and up and up of Christians shouldn't celebrate, Christians should, it's okay for Christians to participate or whatever the case might be, because there's just so much. Obviously there's a negative connotation with Halloween, but it's just there's the question: should and can Christians participate in Halloween, and does it go against the Bible or our belief as believers? So I think it's gonna be an interesting conversation, right? Because again, this topic is being talked about all on social media by any Christian influencer, if you will, if you want to call them that. That's a lot of the topics of their conversations right now, what they're talking about. Some people have a reasonable opinion, and some others have a very flawed opinion. So it's interesting to see and hear different perspectives on that. But I'm happy for for us to get this conversation, because I think we definitely going to be good to clear a lot of things up in a long form rather than just a quick sound bite that a lot of people tend to see. But I'm your host, Quan. I go by Q, and this is my co-host, Minster Boggan, better known as MB. We welcome you to another episode of the Mediocre Dad's Bible Study. And as I mentioned, guys, Halloween, the topic of Halloween, again, this is it's similar to a lot of holidays that come up. Should Christians celebrate them? Should they participate? I mean, again, I know what we talked about last year, but I'm interested to hear if there's a new take that you have, or something new that came to you that makes you say, hey, no, or you hold a similar stance.
Well, as the church is divided, there are some Christians that feel it's no big deal. It's just secular. It's just something we do collectively as a country once a year. And as long as you're not worshiping the devil with it, you're just having fun, whether you're doing it with your church, then it's no harm, no foul. It's not like you do it. A matter of fact, every single person under the sound of my voice that's not over 2,000 years old wasn't even here during the time when it was used for the reason when it was originated, which I'm going to go over a little of the history. But when it was introduced to you growing up in the United States, it's all about the candy for a lot of the kids and stuff like that. Now, we do know that there are some that literally worship the devil, whether it's through witchcraft and all of that stuff. That still exists, and that is some of the reasons for the pushback from a lot of Christians that feel it's the devil's playhouse. We shouldn't even deal with it. It's paganism, and it's for whatever reasons. But I say, I'll cover the scripture portion of this so that we can understand how to approach this, because it's really going to be based on every individual and how you look at it, based on, your own conviction and your relationship with God. But the principles for this particular topic being Halloween, like you had mentioned earlier, to reiterate, it has a lot to do with Christmas and Easter, because you get the same types of pushback when we participate in an annual event just meant to be festive. When the event in and of itself is not bad, it's just meant for families to come together in the communities to just have a good time, and it's the only time we do these particular events once a year. So it's a lot there. It just depends on where you fall, what side of the fence you fall on, and where you are. So when I asked Google, my question to Google was, so why is it such a big deal every year when it comes to Halloween and some Christians? Because some have an issue and some don't. And Google's reply was, some Christians take issue with Halloween due to the historical pagan roots and the association with dark themes like witchcraft and I got this thing with the volume all the way down, and this stupid sucker still answered me. I'm like, dang, nabbit, can a brother get a break? As soon as I mention, it's like, don't mention the word Google, because it's going to wake up if you do. And I'm like,
because you have an Android. Okay, yes,
Android love to get involved and jump in where they're not warranted. Now, I didn't ask for that help, but thanks for the assist. So let me start over. Some Christians take issue with Halloween due to its historical pagan roots and the association with dark themes like witchcraft and the occult. Others, however, see the holiday as a secular event focused on innocent fun, community, and family, and participate in it in a way that aligns with their belief. They may even use it as an opportunity to engage with their neighbors in a positive way. And according to Halloween.com, history.com, the tradition originated with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor All Saints. Soon afterwards, All Saints' Day incorporated some of the traditions of Samhain. The evening before was known as All Hallows' Eve, and later became Halloween. Over time, Halloween evolved into a day of activities like trick-or-treating, carving out jack-o'-lanterns, festival gatherings, wearing costumes, and eating treats. That's what we know of it as today. We celebrate the coming together. We get to put on some costumes, go out with our kids, let them get all the candy they can eat, come back home, they get sick from the candy and get cavities, and we do it again next year. It's a routine that we do on a regular basis. And where the churches have come in, they have what is known as trunk or treat, which I've participated. I was even a Pac-Man when we dressed, and my family were ghosts when we did it. I'm going to read this scripture because it's going to go right into how you can look at this. 1 Corinthians 8, 9 through 13, NIV. Be careful, however, that your exercise of your rights do not become a stumbling block for the weak. 10 goes on to say, for if someone with a weak conscience sees you with all your knowledge eating in an idol's temple, won't that person be emboldened to eat what is sacrificed to idols? 11 goes on to say, so this weak brother or sister for whom Christ died is destroyed by your knowledge. 12 goes on to say, when you sin against them in this way, you wound their weak conscience. You sin against Christ. 13 says, therefore, if what I eat causes my brother or sister to fall into sin, I will never eat meat again, so that I will not cause them to fall. So basically, if you wear a costume, and I'm not talking about the ghosts, the goblins, anything dealing with witchcraft and all that, because really, if your kids as a Christian is going to dress, if they're not Moses carrying the 10 commandments, if they're not an angel of light, if they're not a little cupcake or a Power Ranger, or, something that they can relate to that's fun for them, and they just go out and get candy and you have a good time. Now, mind you, I said a Christian family. So that means that all the other biblical principles that we have talked about, the responsibility of a parent, raising their kids in the way that they should go, all these things that we've talked about on this platform, that's your responsibility. And they should know that this is just for the fun of it collectively as a nation and as a family. But by no means does it represent God, or are you worshiping, and you don't go too deep because a lot of kids don't understand, its origin. But you as a parent know that there are demons that celebrate this particular day and are out and about. You pray over your children. You stay on church grounds. You go and you do it like that. If you have a very safe neighborhood that you trust, and God forbid you live in a bad neighborhood, you go out to the neighbors that you know that love your kids, and you have fun. And just because, and here's one of the reasons why we do this. And we explained this before. When you have kids that are 3, 4, and 5, and all they know is Halloween, you get to put on some costumes and get candy. That's all they know. Mm-hmm. And when they go to school with their peers, they might even say, hey, you guys can dress up in your favorite costumes for Power Rangers or whatever the cartoon is, for the Barney or whatever. and you get to wear it to school. We're going to celebrate. We're going to be giving out candy. That way they can participate and not be shunned against or feel like they're being left out, because that's hard for a little 5-year-old to understand. Why can't I participate? When you are holding a standard from this knowledge, because this can work both ways, because that's what God is saying for us not to do to others, that if convicted and you're like, I can't do it. I just don't feel right. So it's in my spirit. This is a pagan holiday. I'm just not going to do it. Then God bless you. Don't do it. Don't, when your church offer it, you don't go there for that. You watch a movie and you turn your lights out at your house. Because even now, even though I don't have an issue with it, I'll turn my lights out because I did that when I was married. It meant more to me. Now I'm by myself. I don't care nothing about Halloween. But I don't have an issue with anybody else that want to celebrate it, as long as you do it right. Because there is a right and wrong way to do all things that we do. And what God is going to look at is your heart. Why are you doing it? Because if you put on a witch costume, or you got on a I Dream a Genie costume where you're a female and that sheer stuff and all your body is showing, you're out of the will of God as a Christian. If you dressing up a Catgirl and Wonder Woman and you wearing those kind of outfits, remember I stated time and time again, you don't get time off from God. You represent God. I don't care if it's on Halloween. So your costume ought to be holy. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. You ain't got no business wearing anything that's body form fitting like that. And you're telling the world I'm with Jesus, but all your butt is hanging out. You're showing all your curves. This is why even in the military, we say your uniform is supposed to break the outline of your body. This is one of the reasons why the churches, and some churches still do, wore those robes. Mm-hmm. Because they didn't want people up there wearing some of the stuff you see in church now. The robes broke the outline. Everybody was uniform. You was paying more attention to the song and the praise than you was looking at Sister So-and-so with a tight figure dress on, or pants that's, totally inappropriate. And you're standing in front of the congregation, supposedly representing God. We represent God in more ways than we tend to understand, and we don't take it that serious. So even in Halloween, and trying to engage in a festival that is meant to bring joy and fun, you still represent God. And that's what God look at. So that's where I stand.
Well, I'll say, a lot of what you said, I totally agree with. I think with anything, right? There will be people that will turn it into something that it was never intended to be, or wanting to make it into something else or conform it to what they believe, right? And
such as.
Well, what I mean is there are people who look at Halloween as an opportunity to worship the devil, right? Versus when me and my family go out, I look at it as an opportunity as my kids get to go around, say trick or treat, get the I'll load up all the candy, we go with our neighbors and their kids, and we walk around the neighborhood, right? There's people they'll take something and make it into something that wasn't never its original intent. As you said, all Hallows Eve, which November was the 31st, which was turned into first May 13th, then Pope Gregory changed it to November 1st. But then you have All Saints Day, which is November 1st, and then you have I forgot what November 2nd is, but it's more of an actual prayer day, and that's kind of where it came in. And then again, as you mentioned, the Celts and that pagan it mixed. It was kind of a mix, and that's kind of where that's how we got to Halloween, right? So the original intent, even during All Saints Day, kids would dress up as saints, and this is more of a Catholic tradition here, but
to ward away the ghosts, the spirits.
Yeah, so they would dress up as these other saints and and do all those things. So there was pure good intentions in doing it. And then even now, right? It's funny you mentioned kids. While I was prepping for the episode, my daughter had seen, my oldest, she had saw what the title was and the kind of the thumbnail and all that, and she had asked me, she was like, she goes, oh, what do you mean? Is Halloween a sin? And I go, well, I said, sweetie, there are people who will take Halloween, and they'll have ill will or ill intentions when they go out to celebrate Halloween. I said, and some people will wear inappropriate costumes. They'll do wrong things, and they're it's truly just trying to bad intentions outside of just having fun. And I said, sweetie, when we celebrate Halloween, I said, yeah, we get to go out with our neighbors, our friends, get some candy, have fun. And I said, I love you guys, love that you guys you pick your costumes and say this is what you want to be, and you go out and you have fun. I said, but as you get older, I said, you will have people, there will be potential be friends that will try to convince you to do something that you shouldn't doing, saying, oh, it doesn't matter and all this. And we had it was a good 10-minute conversation what she finished up what ended up with saying was, if somebody says, because she's mixing what our previous conversation, but she said, if somebody wears a shirt that says, doing their will and not God's will, then they're sinning. And I was like, you're right. You're 100% right.
Out of the mouth of babes, I tell you.
And for me, it was just, again, it was unexpected, but it was a wonderful opportunity and a wonderful conversation, because again, I got to explain to her, like, hey, this is about having fun. This is not about this. I said, there are other people who have all that other ill intentions out there, but this is about having fun, and that's what I want them to do. You saw the front of my house. I got some lights and some little blow up dolls of a Minion and Jack the Skeleton, his dog, and Bluey and whatnot. And the only reason I did it is because our neighbors, they tend to go all out for every holiday, but they're like, she was like, I really want our house to be more of like festive and be a part of the neighborhood. So I was like, sure, you know what, let's do it. So that's more of, again, my intent. I believe 100% intentions is for my kids. They want to have a good time. They want to have fun. They want to go get the trick or treating and be in their costumes. But I am curious to hear your thoughts. We've kind of outlined and said, hey, understanding that there is some evil within that day, even like, what is it? Old people who worship Satan, or people who used to worship Satan and now they're believers and all that. They have come out and they've said, hey, this is the day where they worship the devil, where all Satanists worship the devil, all these things. And they're like, Christians shouldn't celebrate, you shouldn't partake in it, because by putting on that costume, you're taking on a new, a new spirit, an evil spirit, and all these, and all this. And there was a young man who was saying this. There was a couple other Satanists who were saying this. So what do you say to those, to that? Because a lot of people will see those videos and be like, oh, well, I shouldn't be, as a Christian, participating in the Halloween.
Well, there's a lot there. First, why this is on my mind, because it tends to move around a bit and I may forget my train of thought. Halloween, we have to be careful. It is the devil's playground, or holiday, if you will. If we was to assign a holiday to the devil, that would be the one, because there are people that actually do more on this particular day than any other day. That's facts. So it still exists.
Yeah.
But two things can exist at the same time. So when you're on your job or you're going to a Halloween party and people are dressed inappropriately and you're drinking and doing all of those things, that is right down the devil's playbook in his alley. Those are things we should not be participating in as adults. That's not our cup of tea. That's going way too far, and you're literally putting yourself in harm's way. Because you want to get out there and start drinking and partying and doing the things that you were doing before you gave your life to Christ. But you see a window of opportunity because it's something you've always wanted you missed. If you gave your life to Christ, you don't go to clubs and drink and do all that stuff like you used to. But because it's happening during the daytime and it's a party at your job, you say, hey, no harm, no foul. I promise you, God is watching you 24/7.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. Now, in regards to you picking up spirits, when you're born again and you love the Lord, we're talking this one day, and I'm not telling you that the spirit going to jump on you this one day you decide to go and get candy with your kids. That's not how this works. And it's like people don't know the power of God in them if they don't really have it.
Yeah.
God don't leave you just because you put on a Power Ranger costume and decided to get some treats. God don't leave you like that's not how God work. That's not how your relationship work. That would be equivalent to you saying, I went out and I went to this party with my job and all of a sudden I danced with this woman. Do that mean you left your wife? Do that mean your status changed because you being married? Because you danced with a woman the one time you was there with your colleague at your job? I mean, that's absurd. It is just, people are so unlearned and they take things at face value without context. They don't put it in proper context. And what it shows me is it also is a direct reflection of their relationship and understanding of God's word and their relationship with God themselves.
Yeah.
Because anybody that know God and love God, oh, I promise you, you going to getting some candy ain't going to make you so weak and so vulnerable like Captain Kirk. Oh, my Lord, I have stepped out and I don't have my phaser and taser and I got to get back soon. You know, I mean, I'm probably a terrible actor. I don't get paid for this. But I'm just saying, it's just absurd.
Yeah.
When you holy and you're born again and you're bought with the price of the blood of Christ, and that's the life you live 24/7, 365, it ain't like you taking a day off just because if you're that fragile, if you lose your salvation and your relationship with God because you got some candy and you was wearing a Power Ranger outfit, you didn't have God to begin with. That's the facts.
Yeah.
You didn't have God to begin with because we are not that fragile. It's not that serious. Again, God is going to look at your heart. What are you trying to do in this outfit? Who are you representing in this outfit? Because see, you can go and represent God even on the 31st. You don't stop talking. When you going and talking to your neighbors and you're in costume and one of them may want to be an angel and they dress up at that opened the door for you to actually have a conversation about God. You never know. God is everywhere and will talk to you when you least expect it. The kids could be getting candy and you could be winning souls for Christ. But like I say, if you go to a church venue, they invite the community. So you're still getting a bunch of people with their children that's going to come by that don't know the Lord. We still do that so you can have an opportunity to intermingle with the people in a safe environment. So it's all about your intent. But to think that you're that vulnerable, that you're going to take on some spirits, you know, because this is the time that they're more active. Man, y'all evidently haven't been paying attention because I'm like, I don't care about them spirits at all.
You know, it's crazy.
It make me mad. I'm like, dude, bring, let them come on out.
I mean,
but you're limping back.
Yeah.
Come over, but you're going to be limping back.
But to act as if, you know, the spirits, these spirits, if you will, are only going to come on this one day, and every other day they're like, hey, we got to take a break. We're too tired, you know, is foolishness, right? And you know, again, Halloween's the perception of Halloween, what Halloween is now today, right, and what we know it as today, it has been altered and changed to be and to represent this evil holiday, the holiday of evil, and this holiday of like spooky, creepy, and all these things. And don't get me wrong, right? So, you know, when I was growing up, there, you know, I'm not one for the cheap scares. So like the what it was called, the haunted houses and everything. Wouldn't do all those, but like the corn mazes, those were all. I thought those were fun. The pumpkin patches, those are fun, right? Like I took my kids to a pumpkin patch, not this year, but a couple years back, and they had a blast, right? You know, getting to pick your own pumpkin and go through the corn maze and kind of see them make their own decisions to figure out which way it goes. This is fun. This is all fun. You know, and again, I think that is what we have to remember, that it's about having fun, not only just with your family, but also especially if you're doing like a trunk or treat with your church, you're around other believers who just want to have a good time, and they're not there for the cheap scares. So they're just, hey, like my kids, this opportunity for my kids to have a good time, trunk or treat, get the experience of doing the trick or treating, but you know, in a place that's not going to where you can't. It's not going to be, you know, more creepy crawly things out there on the streets or whatever people want to do, you know. And I believe if you're you feel a heavy conviction on that issue, then that's why I highly encourage, go to your churches, attend to your church's trunk or treat. that, just attend your truck, set up a trunk. That's a blast within itself. Setting up a whole trunk in your trunk, whether you have a truck or a SUV or car, and having all these things up. I have seen some very well put together, thought out trunks where people just did these things. Or I'm like, man, that's really cool. That's a really cool thing that you did. They made out of the game. And again, the kids have a blast, and they get to dress up. And they still get to experience what it's about.
Well, I say it's two things that really get me. We have to understand that depending on where you've been in your life and the sins you've committed against God, that you might be like, God save me from this stuff. I'm not trying to go back. So you may have a barrier there to say, no, this is just pure evil. I just don't want anything to do with it. We shouldn't do it as Christians. And that's, once again, going back with the scripture. If you're convicted, then don't do it, because don't nobody know what's in your closet but you. Mm-hmm. But on the second point, what's frustrating for me is for you to hijack the entire holiday and put everybody in the boat when you don't know everybody's heart.
Yeah.
And why they do what they do. And that's where it gets wrong, because if it's wrong for you and your house, then God bless you and your house. But to say what somebody else can or cannot do, and then to make the holiday to be evil and like there's no good that can come out of it, I totally disagree with that premise and that perspective. It's best to just mind yours and let people do what they do. And if you're convicted and you can't do it for whatever reason, then that's you and your house. But if other people have a relationship with God and their relationship with God is not shaky, it's not about to fall apart just because they celebrate with the rest of the country with this idea, because I believe a great deal of people in our country, just for the same reason he do it with his young kids, it's a tradition. You just go out there, you have fun, and you pray that you get back safely. I mean, back when I was young doing this, you would have people that was evil putting razor blades in apples and giving out fruit. That's why we went away from that kind of stuff. Now candy has to be unbroken and untainted, because the nature of people is just evil.
Yeah.
It ain't just that people are demons and people are just evil.
Yeah.
Let's just call it a spade. Let's call a spade a spade. People are just evil. But that evil didn't start or stop on one day out the year.
No.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, we have to apply some common sense here, y'all. I just can't stand. It's the same thing with Christmas. When I think it was Jeremiah, who was talking about how they get the wood and put fake the carvings in it and nail it to the floor, and they associated that with a Christmas tree. Do you even pay attention to what that is implying? Do you even understand the definition of the word worship? Because the principle for Easter Bunny, which I knew about Peter Cottontail. I grew up watching that darn cartoon. I dare you say anything bad about Peter Cottontail. Are we that simple? Is our relationship that fragile that we can't apply common sense and let the Holy Ghost lead us? Again, you don't like Easter, then don't eat the eggs. Don't let your kids go out there and look for eggs, because they're going to get they get candy and eggs. More reason to get cavities and a stomach full of protein. But we want to turn every single thing and look at it as at its worst or lowest case denominator.
Well, isn't it, with the verse in the Bible that's like, not to conform to the ways of this world, right? Is it in a sense of Christians trying to change how a lot of them have come up with saying like these holidays are acceptable, and these, again, even Halloween, the perception represents evil. Easter, we know what it's for, but again, it's the Easter Bunny has taken hold of it, and egg hunting for eggs is what people associate with Easter. Christmas, they associate getting gifts, Santa, and elves, right? So these holidays, these holidays, especially Christmas and Easter for Christians, have now been warped into something completely different. And so it's like, hey, as a Christian, we shouldn't participate because that's us not saying it's okay. These things are okay when they're taking away its original meaning.
I really enjoy that question. So let me see if I can't knock this one out the park. All of these holidays are driven by the corporations to make money. That's why you see the changes in the holidays in all of your stores you go to. Right before Easter, you're going to see the Easter bunny. You're going to see the eggs and the candy that gets sold annually for that particular holiday. Right now, Halloween is all over the place and they're getting ready to transition into Thanksgiving. This is seasonal stuff business use to make money. Your participation in this has nothing to do with your relationship with God. Neither do these holidays have to do with God. That's why you teach them at home. Because for me to agree with your assessment when we say these things, that is implying that the world is raising my kids instead of me. It is my job to teach the kids, not the schools, not the corporations, the businesses. It's my responsibility. So for anybody to try to hijack any kind of holiday, oh, well, it's taking over the holiday. It's taking over the meaning of Jesus' birth. And all of a sudden now it's about the Easter bunny and not Jesus' birth. No, that's the corporations making money in which we all participate. So if you're going to go by what you're saying, stop going to the store. Don't buy any of those products. But no, you're behind going to go there and eat them darn eggs and candy. You're going to go on Valentine's Day, which is still, if I go by what you're saying, pagan, but you're going to buy that candy, the roses, it's a tradition. If that is what your relationship with God is made of, you're the one flawed. Not the corporations that make money and we been doing this before your birth, and when you are gone, it'll still go on. But the relationship with God, the Bible says, starts at home. God did not put it on the corporation. God did not put it on the teachers. God put it on the parents. You raise your kids. You take them to church. And guess what? When they put on their costume, I ain't putting that on. That goes against God. I am holy. Kids will tell you themselves. Just like you see him twice, he's mentioned how his daughter is curious. She's reading. She want to know about everything. And she has questions. That's what kids do. So stop hijacking a festival, an annual festival that we all can participate. And I got an idea. How about you take God with you? How about you take God with you on Christmas, on Easter, on Valentine's, on Thanksgiving? How about you take God with you? Because it is not the holiday that shows your relationship with God. It's how you love and treat one another is what shows your relationship with God. And that should shine brighter than any holiday that comes around here annually. This is what I mean by people are unlearned and they hijack a narrative, and it's been going on and it will continue to go on. But me and my house, we going to serve the Lord in spirit and in truth. And dag nabbit, if I want to be Moses, if I want to be a Power Ranger, if I want to be Pac-Man, or if I want to dress up as Godzilla himself, dag nabbit, I'm going to do it as a MB, a minister. I'll just be a righteous Godzilla.
Oh man, I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of people on social media. They say, me and my family we're not partaking into Halloween this year, whatever the case may be. And again, I'm all for people's personal choices and personal decisions, how they want to do their go about that's their family, that's their life, that's on them. But again, like you said, this is not on others to put it on the rest of us to say, now you can't participate because I'm not participating. And if you participate, that means you are less holy or less righteous than I am, because you want to be a part of you want to be in the world, and intermingling with the world rather than be connected with the Lord. And again, I don't know why this is a topic that so many Christians. I think there's a struggle. I think there is a struggle with it, in a sense. But so many struggle with the decision on whether or not they're. You know what? I had an epiphany. I know what it is. It's almost like they feel like they're breaking one of God's rules. These unspoken rules as Christians, that they're breaking one of God's unspoken rules if they participate. And so there's this idea of who God is not actually who God is. That's not his character. And they're saying, well, I have been taught as a believer that if I partake, I'm participating in evil. So it's one of these, it's like they're violating these unspoken rules. So they're like, I'm just not going to participate.
Well, I would add one even more. I believe a lot of them do mean well initially.
Yeah, 100%.
I just believe that this has a lot to do with their maturing in God. They can't think the way I do if they haven't walked where I've been. And they won't get the very mysteries of God until they've put their time in with God and studying, and that way and allowing the Holy Ghost to lead us. Because everything is done with wisdom with God, and God give you wisdom when you ask for it. So a lot of this has to do with they could be young in the Spirit of God, and they take it at face value. God said, don't do this. You just don't do this.
Yeah.
And there is no wiggle room in that, in the way that they're looking at it. And a lot of what God say is absolute like that, where there is no gray area. But some areas, there's a lot of gray areas based on if you can eat meat, you eat meat. But if you can't eat meat, you don't eat meat in front of your brother so that they don't stumble. And that's why it's like everything is based on where are you in God? Because that is what's going to be the driving force behind your decisions about whatever you decide to associate yourself with it when it comes to events in the country and in your household. So the closer you get to God and the more you learn about your relationship and about how God is just, he believe in wisdom like crazy. I mean, and he want us to think things through and count up the cost. And that's why this is something that cannot be utilized as a broad brush to hit everybody, because you don't know where everybody is in God. And everything we do is going to show exactly where you are in God.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, don't put everybody in the boat that you're in, because everybody, one, ain't going to fit. And I said something similar when we was talking about how people take their faith and put it through their belief and their affiliation with whatever party they associate themselves with, because you can't paint everybody with a broad brush, because everybody don't fit. And that's why I use the example that you can't even get your family to agree on what we're going to eat. As you'll see as your kids get older, if they haven't done it already. One is going to want this, one is going to want this, and you like, y'all need to come together. We ain't doing all that.
One wants Panda Express, the other one wants Chick-fil-A.
You see what I'm saying?
And it's Sunday. And
Hello.
we're like, it's Chick-fil-A's closed. I'm not going to Panda.
Listen, it only gets worse as they get older.
Yeah.
So imagine now you're trying to speak on behalf of all Christians, because when you get on that on your platform and you put all Christians, you're talking about millions upon millions of people. You're not that good. You don't know everybody's heart and where they are with God. And that is judging them to say, because some people have went as far as to say you're worshiping that spirit or that demon that's associated from the original sin over 2,000 years ago. And I'm like, really? Especially on Christmas. I mean, that's my pet peeve right there. I'm like, really? So you're telling me I'm worshiping the Christmas tree? Because I put ornaments on it and I put Christmas presents under it, and I'm worshiping the tree. So I'm bowing down and giving homage to this tree was supposed to be the deity of my household.
Yeah.
What kind of crack are you on?
Well, it's
man, come on.
I want to say this. I don't think that because again, it's another one of the videos that I heard. One of the many videos I heard, right, was. They called them, fence riding Christians, right? When they're trying to make that decision, if they're going to make the decision to participate, have their family participate in Halloween. And I want to be clear, right? Like what we're talking about is about maturity. We're not fence. I really despise when people will put a label on somebody that they've never met, they don't know them, and they'll be like, oh, you're a fence rider, or you're one of my favorite ones that a lot of Christians tend to use if somebody gets something wrong is, oh, you're a false prophet, you're a false teacher. And it's like, wow, okay, we just made a leap here. You know what I mean? Like, like everything else I've said has been up to par up to this point. Whether I misspoke or misunderstood, whatever the case might be, right? And there's such thing, reach out and say, hey, I think you misunderstand what you're talking about there. But again, this idea that we put this, we say, hey, you're a fence rider because you want to participate you want to participate in worldly events. So you want to be in the world and you want to do what they do and feel how they feel. Again, I believe so for holidays like this is more for kids. This is more for the kids, right? As you get older, and you mentioned this, as you get older, especially as adults, right? If you don't have any kids, I'm just going to be frank with you. If you're a 22-year-old and above, I'm even going to say 19 and above, to be honest with you, 19 years old and above, and you're out there, you decide, hey, I'm going to put on this costume, and I'm going out there. Like, I think that to me, it's like, why? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I'm 59. And I'll put on a costume because it's fun. It's funny.
Well, okay, but hold on. Are you putting on a costume to go to the club and to go do things to say, hey, tonight be a good night? Because guess what? Halloween's on a Friday night this year. Clubs are going to be open, females, girls, but whatever, all people are mixing. That's my point, right? Well, you're not doing it to that way. You might go say to your church's trunk or treat, say, hey, it's going to be a good time. I don't want to be standing out there in a tracksuit.
Or if I really was inclined and had my own podcast, I would probably be a Count Dracula so I could say blah, blah, blah. That's me. I do stuff like that. But I'll be still talking about sin.
Yeah.
And the additives and preservatives that the devil put in the blood of the sinners, and I won't be drinking their stuff. So, I just don't want that high cholesterol meal, But I'm a prankster like that. I love to have fun. I'm a big kid at heart. But like I said, the world will go to clubs. You already know what they do in clubs. All the dirty dancing and all the different intermingling of married and single, and they're lusting after each other. Because once you have a few drinks, it's sexual after that point. They're playing the music. All the thing you want to do is feel a warm body up against yours and hope you get lucky enough to get the phone number and maybe escort that person home. That is the way of the world. So when you put on costumes, you're still doing the same thing. You just have a costume on. So no, I just think that if you are for real with your walk with God, there are certain things you just can't do. There are certain costumes you just can't wear. It's simple. And me, I'm the kind of person, if I wear a costume, I'm going to have a theme to go with it. And it's going to be a message. It's going to be a word that I would only do annually when Halloween come around, just to be festive and be a part of what's going on, current events. I believe in keeping up with current events. But my relationship with God is not in question, nor am I being persuaded by some dark spirit. And I rebuke them, and my house is clean. So I do all of these things when I start my podcast to have themes that's going to get other people's attention, because it will grab your attention with some of the things I say or the way I do it. God will bless me to have a following, but I'm not following the country from that perspective. I follow God. And you're going to say that I'm on the fence because I'm following the current events of the day in our country, and that's following the world, if you will. Let me share something with you. Your walk with God is 24/7, 365. And just because you go to church don't mean you're a Christian. So if I go by that particular standard, I can call you out and call you a hypocrite for even stepping up in God's house wearing the costume of a Christian, because you're not. I can throw this back in your face so many different ways and call you a hypocrite. But I do not do that, because God said, let the wheat and the tares grow together. So I don't judge nobody. You want to wear a costume? Wear a costume. You want to go to the club? Go to the club. You don't have to answer for what you do. I'm just here to warn you and share where God has brought me from, because I used to be like you. I used to go to clubs. I would go to Halloween. I'd dress up. I wasn't doing the scary places. I don't do the haunted house because a brother run fast, and I don't want to hurt nobody, because you jump out at me, I might hit you in the face out of fear, because I get scared. The first thing I'm going to do is swing. I may not hit you that hard because I'm not a fighter. That's just not in my DNA. I'm a runner. But now I can't run that fast, so now I got to hit.
Last time he was running pretty fast, he hurt himself.
Yeah, I try not to do that. I caught both flats. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't a good thing.
Oh man. Well, again, I think this conversation is important, right? Because again, for those who you won't see it, you won't see it this year, but say you see this episode of the podcast next year, or whatever the case might be, or sometime, I think, just understand, like, where this is not about going out there and worshiping evil and all, and especially as a Christian, right? That's not what we're out there doing. It's not what we're out there doing. And for those who are doing those things, for those who are, because again, we have to be careful, right? Because I think there are people who will, Christians are not, who will say, hey, well, this time of year it's kind of spooky, so I want to mess around with the Ouija boards, or mess around with the circles of and doing all these things and seances,
tarot
right?
cards and all that foolishness.
They want, there are people who will do those things, and trust and believe those things. I mean, those things do carry evil with them, and that's not what we're saying that you participate in and partake in, especially if you claim to profess Christ as a Lord of your life. So I think, again, it's about being careful, but ultimately it's about having fun and understanding. I think understanding the history of a lot of these things definitely helps you understand, like, oh, okay, this is the history of it. Okay, this is why I'm doing this, versus just saying, well, it's evil, so I have to participate in evil, right?
But see, here's the thing. Let's say you don't know the history, and let's say the history is black and dark. What is in your heart when you do it? Because you're not living back in those days and doing all this. That's what I had an issue with when Jeremiah broke down what they were doing, and what they were doing was worshiping the devil. You worship God. Putting on a costume don't mean all of a sudden you're going to turn into a Power Ranger and you're going to bend down and worship the spirit of the Power Ranger, something stupid. It's not that. It's not like that. Because context matter. We need to put this in proper content. When you go with your family and you're still loving and you're having fun, you left your house with God. Did you leave God at your house? And now you're going to turn into a devil. And then when you come back to your house, you're going to put God back on. It don't work like that. It just don't. God look at your heart and how you treat people every day, so that when Halloween do come around and you want to put on, you might want to be the Three Stooges, Mo, Larry, and Curly. And you go out and you act silly like the Three Stooges would while you get candy and make other people laugh. You're having fun. Do not allow people to hijack the narrative based on a history that they know nothing about other than what they read, and then they want to correlate that to today. You know what I mean? They want to bring that to today and hold you accountable for the sins of the past, way back then, when you're not even that person. Somebody ask you, what happened 2,000 years? I don't know. I can't even pronounce the name of that God, whatever they were doing back then.
Oh,
because they have so many of them. I mean, they had so many gods back then. But you're like, what are you talking about? You would literally look at a person as if, you know how they look at you when you want to tell them about Jesus. They get that deer in the headlight look, like, what are you doing? They don't want to hear about Jesus.
But would you say there are costumes that become, I would say become, that represent evil?
Yes.
And that Christians should strive away from. Like, I'm not even talking like the necessarily the inappropriate ones like Catwoman.
Well, I'm talking like the witch. A witch. If you want to be a witch, some kids want to be the witch because of the things that they've seen with Nadia, or either if you look at what's the one with the kid, Harry Potter and all this stuff.
Well, like Nevaeh is going to be Elphaba from Wicked, with the which is the prequel to what's that? The
Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz. There we go. And so she's got green paint. We're gonna paint her face all green. She's got her little witch hat, her Elphaba hat, and all that. And then Eden's gonna be Grimilda. Grimilda, I think it's her name. She's gonna be the Princess Grimilda, whatever. So, but again, my
Well,
kids.
I think it is certain costumes that I would not allow kids to wear because of the spiritual aspect of it. And notice all the costumes that we were Teen Titans. That's what we were as a family. Pac-Man. We did stuff like that.
Well, Eli's gonna be the lion from. We got him a little lion costume,
So that is what I look at. I don't believe in being goblins, witches, or anything that deal with what witches did, because we're still dealing with spiritual stuff. And that's why I say I pick costumes that are funny, that has nothing to do with demon stuff at all. From witches, whether mommies, whatever. I just believe that it should also be something that is lifting up the light, if you will. That's why I say if they want to be an angel, or if they want to dress up as Mary, or if they want to dress up as any of the cartoons like Barney, if they want to be a Barney, something that's innocent, or something of that nature. We didn't do witches, goblins, stuff like that. That's stuff I shied away from.
Some of the things, and so here, and this is kind of where my mind goes is, while we as the adults understand the negative connotation or the things that go associated with that, kids don't, right? So when my kids, Nevaeh loves the movie Wicked. It's one of her, if not her favorite movie, right? She loves that movie, but she doesn't. But my daughter, I don't think my daughter's sitting there plotting in her mind saying like, I love it because this is.
No, she's not going to understand that. To me, I would have. Me, myself, I just wouldn't have showed her that particular movie. Out of all of the Wizard of Oz movies that have been remade, even from from Michael Jackson and all that stuff, this particular version I did not care for.
Yeah.
I did not care for it. And that's why I haven't seen it. And I'm a fan. I love the Cowardly Lion and the Tin Man. I'm from the era of the original Wizard of Oz. So if I was going to be a character, I'd probably be the Cowardly Lion or, the Scarecrow. But the spirit of both of those movies is night and day different.
Well, don't get me wrong.
Night and day
right?
different.
Yeah, because
and a kid is only going to get used to what you show them.
Yeah.
Because if you hadn't showed her that, she never would have known to pick that out and wouldn't have grown accustomed to it, the way, like you say, the attachment that she have. So, no, she's not going to understand that part. She's just going to see it's a movie that you allowed her to watch, and she liked that character, and that's what kids do. They gravitate to the characters that they like. The same thing with the Power Rangers. They like their characters, and that's normal for all kids as well as adults. But I just wouldn't have. That one, I would have probably went with the original Wizard of Oz first and looked at that, because it's a lot more to that movie. I won't get into it here, but I'm just saying that's one of the reasons why I didn't care for it myself. But no, she's not. She's going to see it as she liked the character, and for whatever reason, that's what she want to be, and she's not going to understand anything outside of that.
And that's my point, right? Kids, I think a lot of times kids. Again, kids are innocent. Now, as my daughter gets older, right, there are, and she's definitely, because she is, I say older, she's 7, she's going to be 8 next year, which is hard to believe, but as she continues to grow and get older and be more aware of certain things that's going on around her more aware of her surroundings, obviously these are things when we start having to change things, right? But my daughter's so amazing because she asks me questions, right? She asks questions and she wants to understand, and as her parents, we're able to explain to her this is what's going on, this is what's happening here, right? And how some people can make it, again, same thing when I was sitting in here talking to her about the Halloween. Some people will turn this thing into something that it shouldn't be, evil and whatever the case would be. And I said, when you get older and you have your friends, and some of those friends who want to do things that they shouldn't be doing, I said, that is when you have to understand, and why you have to understand what I'm telling you right now is, when we have this conversation, and be like, no, this is too far. This is not why I don't want to participate in this. This is not for me. My parents told me, talk to me about these things, and these things, this is taking it too far into the realm of, that's where I don't, it's no longer about just having fun. It's about you guys wanting to do something that's evil, whatever the case might be. Right. And that's my point. Right. Again, I think it's so important as parents to preserve our kids' innocence as long as possible, right? Because that's what they believe kids represent is innocence. And, growing up, there were things that my parents told me I wasn't allowed to watch, didn't watch, whatever the case might be. But I totally respect and understand what they meant. But even today, like for my kids, one of the biggest shows out is on Netflix is the Demon Hunters, K-pop Demon Hunters. And I didn't allow her to watch that, right? And she really wanted to watch it, but she knows some of the songs, like Soda Pop, I think is one of the songs called. But she really wanted to watch it. And if I had allowed her to watch that, she would have wanted to be one of those K-pop Demon Hunter chicks of that show. But again, it's about I think it's about preserving our kids' innocence. And there are things that that will not do that. They will take away. I believe that will start to take away that innocence from them. So again, as parents, we have to have that discernment, decision making. Say, hey, I'm not okay with you watching that.
Well, I think that is part of it, as well as to showing them shows where you can literally point out the good and the bad in it, because she's old enough to know I'd rather be on the good guy's side and not the evil guy's side and want justice served. That's something that she's quite aware of, for us right and wrong. And then it's like the Seven Dwarfs, Snow White, when she have those kind of cartoons and see all of those things, it starts to form their character. Even if she watch a Western and you see a bad guy rob the bank and then the good guy put him in jail, that's when you talk to them and make sure that she's understanding, because some people will gravitate, I want to be a bad guy. And then you explain why they shouldn't be a bad guy. Because we are Christians, we always want to be on the side of good and not do harm, but want to be able to help people. That is how you form their opinion at their age, because she's at the age now where she'll understand that. So I would say to be, like you already doing, being particular about what she sees and what she's been made aware of, because you want her to be able to discern right from wrong and see it in different forms, because it's going to come in different forms. And if she's smart on one side and naive on the other, she can get ensnared in what she don't recognize.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll surmise with this, guys. The whole reason me and Nevaeh had this conversation, I was sitting at my desk and, wearing my shirt. Front says salvation. On the back is, is Jesus on the cross with the verse, Luke 23:43, which is when Jesus tells one of the robbers that he'll be with him in paradise. And the whole conversation started because she asked me, she goes, what does that say on your shirt, Dad? And I said, oh, this is what it is. And this is what I read it to her. And she goes, oh, okay. She goes, but what's that picture? I said, it's Jesus when he was crucified. She goes, I don't know what that means. And I said, well, when he was on the cross, and I said he was crucified. And she goes, okay. What is being on the cross mean? I said, well, it's called crucifixion. And she's funny sometimes because I'm like, we have to re-explain things. But anyway, I explained it again, explaining that to her, and explaining to her, the robbers, and she says, kids are funny. She goes, because I was explaining to her, I was like, yeah, there were two robbers who were on the cross at the same time as Jesus, and she was like, yeah, well, when you steal things, that's just what happens. And I was like, well, the Bible really go to detail. But I was like, I kind of like where your head's at, don't steal. So we're on the same page, you know what I mean? But again, her response, that was her, a glimpse of her innocence showing. It wasn't, no, yeah, hang him on the cross. That definitely. No, it was just her innocence showing of like, oh, she doesn't understand. She doesn't know what she doesn't know. She's asking her dad these questions and wanting to understand. And I think, again, that's what it's about, maintaining our kids' innocence for as long as possible. Obviously, it's only going to, I believe, unfortunately, you have to kind of take a step back at one point to allow them to understand, see, experience glimpses of the world for themselves and see how they handle it and trust in and how you raise them. And obviously, if you have that solid foundation, they'll be just fine. It reminds me of when Jesus making the reference about building your house on sand or building your house on the rock, right? And I love reading that in Matthew, especially because what it says is it still goes what it covers, and what it still says is it still says the storm is still going to come. It still says the storm's going to come. It's going to rage, even if whether you built your house on the rock, whether you built your house on the sand. And I love that because a lot of people, real quick tangent, will take this and say, "Hey, I'm following Christ now, but my life's not all rainbows and butterflies." No, the storms are still going to come. Trials are still going to come. But like it says in James 1, verse 2 through 4, you count it as you take great joy in any trial. Count it as endurance, and when your faith is tested, it grows into perfection. Gosh, I'm totally butchering it, but you get my gist. If you want to read it for yourself, James 1, 2 through 4. And so, again, this is what it's about. And as our kids get older, they're going to experience things that we as parents want to do for them that we can't. We can only do so much for them, and we have to take a step back and allow them to understand how they can navigate through the life and as they continue to grow. And again, when my daughter is older and it's Halloween, she's 15 or 16 talking, "Dad, I'm wearing this." "No, sweetie, you're not supposed to. That's appropriate not to wear." "You're right, Dad. I'm going to go change into this," whatever the case might be. And that's what it's about.
And when it comes to these holidays here in the United States, your relationship with God shouldn't hinge on those.
Mm-hmm.
They're only once a year. And if that is the full sum of your relationship, you don't have one. You deceive yourself. So, holidays are meant to bring joy and fun, and it can be done with God. And based on the kind of costume you decide to wear will reflect your relationship with God if you're with him. So don't let all this, because there's a lot of heat out there on the internet about this stuff. People really get into it, going back and forth and with a lot of passion, and there's some serious debate. And then it gets to a point where if you are with God, you get out of God based on how you respond to people. Mm-hmm. Because you get out of the kindness and love. If you're going to bless people, it's supposed to be done in love, because you can gather more bees with honey than with vinegar. So we got to take a step back and allow God to be God. And the best thing you can do is pray for folks. If you really feel that God has put you on this mission to just squash all holidays because they're all pagan and everything is about God, then I would submit to you, you need to start at the church. You're starting at the wrong end. You need to be burning it on the other end, because the church is the one that need that kind of fire.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it's been another phenomenal episode, guys. I mentioned, I don't know if it was last week or the week prior, that there was some news. So the Q and MB is the Mediocre Dad's Bible Study is coming to an end. MB has known about this for some time. I did.
Nothing I did.
No. I have been making a transition out of the Army for some time now, for the past, since July, 6 months now, going on 6 months now, or 5 months, 6 months in December. But making a transition out of the Army, and for all glory be to God, I was able to get a position that's gonna move me and my family to Colorado. And so, by the end of this year, or beginning of December, I will be moving to Colorado. As y'all know, November 1st is Saturday, so November is going to be spent a lot of time prepping and moving, getting the family ready for that. It is unfortunate that we have to end. Next week will be our last episode, but it's unfortunate that we have to end. But I want y'all to understand how amazing God is, and how intentional He is. Because when I tell y'all, when I was praying and I was praying to Him, asking, I said, "Hey, I want to do a podcast with somebody. When I started my the regular Mediocre Dads podcast, I always envisioned doing it with having a co-host that could sit down with and we have these conversations. But it wasn't until that I said, hey, I'm gonna do it, add the Bible study with it. Y'all, I did 2 episodes by myself, and then by the third episode was with James. And from that third episode, again, May 20th of 23, 24? How long have we been together?
23, I believe
20,
it was.
Was it
No, 24.
24. It was 24. 24. Yeah. May 20th of 24. We did an episode, and then from that we've been doing an episode every week from this point on, and it has been amazing. I have learned, I've grown so much. I know you all have learned and grown so much, not only just internally, but spiritually as well, to understanding more of the Bible, and to hear from a minister, to have someone who has the knowledge and the experience to explain these things and articulate these things, that only helps and benefits the rest of us in the masses, right? I've told y'all several times, I am learning just as much as you are learning, right? While my maturity has grown in my faith, there are still a lot of things that I don't know. There are still things I'm learning and learning how to break down and seeing what that looks like. But this has all been, it's been some of the best year plus, over a year now, of my life, of just having my Thursdays, knowing that Thursdays we are going to meet and have a conversation about the Bible and about the Lord, and being able to ask the tough questions has not only helped me and my family, but again, has helped them. And, the Lord, he closes one door and he opens another. And this is, for me, is while it's unfortunate I'm leaving Texas, it is a blessing to be going to Colorado. Listen, y'all, Mediocre Dads won't stop. It will stop for some time. I'm not going to be honest. I'll be honest with you. It's going to stop for some time, but I'll pick things back up again. But when I do, just know, like, all the things that I've learned from you it's going to carry with me when I get to Colorado and I get picked back up and doing this again. A lot of it, guys, you're going to see the similar fire. You're going to see it's a lot of this is going to stem from what James has taught me, and I'm very appreciative of it. I am saddened that it has to come to an end. I am saddened that we have to part ways this way.
Well, you can always stay. I mean, it can go on. I mean, you don't have to take that job.
I can tell y'all, it crossed my mind, and then they told me how much they determined my worth, if you will, from coming to work with them. And I said, well, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse.
Well, it's like I told you. Sometimes you take less in order to get more. And sometimes you take more and you end up with less. But only time will tell whether the right decision was made by and by.
No, yeah. I will tell you this, though. This is, for me, a tug on my heart for when the opportunity first presented itself, right? When the opportunity first presented itself, it was I again knew it was in Colorado. I said, that's not a state that I'm familiar with. I could move to, and a lot of different things was going through my mind. I was like, nah, the Lord wants me to stay in San Antonio, and I had several other opportunities that you know of, and I'm not here to name those companies, but I prayed about it continuously, and I asked the Lord the same question that I did about becoming an officer, being a warrant officer, and it was, hey, if it's your will for me to stay here, then I just ask for these opportunities. Any other opportunity that it just don't even give me hope in this opportunity, just take it away, close that door completely, to let me know this is the direction you want me to go. And sure enough, in my heart, I was telling Aubrey, I said, in my hearts of hearts, I said, I feel like Colorado is it. I feel like that's what our next move is going to be. And sure enough, those other opportunities, which one of them I was really looking forward to, I really wanted to, he closed the door. And I said, okay, this is it seems to me, this is the will of what he wants me to do. And so this is what I'm doing. And again, only time will tell, what is to come of that and how that is to work out. But again, that doesn't mean that this stops, right? James will be starting his own podcast. I know he's not right away, but I know soon. I know he's still getting things prepped, and prepared. And look, you guys are in for a show with his podcast. We've talked about it several times of what he's going to be doing with his podcast, and I think you guys are going to be in for a show and for an experience. And I think, if a lot of people had your imagination, a lot of shows would be very different. But a lot of people don't have your imagination. I tell you, you have one heck of imagination. There are some things that you talked about that I was like, how did you even think of that? But
I tell you, it's definitely been an eye-opening experience for me. I've been blessed just being here, being able to understand how podcasts work. So it's been an experience where I've learned a lot just being here with you. God has a way of working things out, and I don't believe in chance. Mm-hmm. God put us together for a season, and now you're going to move on and be blessed in Colorado, and I will continue the mission that God have me here. And as he opened up doors, we just step in them.
Yeah.
But like you say, you don't forget the lessons you learn. You take it with you, and that is my prayer for you, that you build off what God has set for you here, the foundation that has been laid for you here. Mm-hmm. Don't get there with the money that offer that they made you that you couldn't refuse, like the Godfather. Make sure you remember who God is, and don't allow the money or the prestige and everything that come with that to pull you back away from God, because that is where the devil is going to attack you the most. He want to pull you back from where you are now, and he knows just how to do it. So you definitely have to be on your guard as you transition and get used to life there in Colorado and all the blessings that God have for you there, which is my prayer. But like you said, I do plan to start one real soon as I get stuff together. I'm not in a rush. Mm-hmm. It's as God bless me, because at that time, everything will fall into place. Yeah. I don't believe in rushing God. I didn't rush God when I met you. It's just something that happened. So I just believe in letting God be the driver. I'm just in the passenger seat, and wherever God take me, that's where I'm going. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And that is one of the lessons that I have learned from watching you and talking with you is taking a step back, right? We want control. We want so much control. I mean, me, especially those who are control freaks, and you know who you are, myself included, I had constant control. But it's amazing when you just step back and you say, you know what? I don't know how he's going to do it, but I know he's going to, I have faith that he is going to do it. And when he does it, it's going to surprise me. I'll tell you a little tidbit after the show, but
oh, no, you won't. It'll wait till next week, because I'm going to watch me some sports.
No, because he's a Dolphins fan. Listen, he's a Dolphins fan, y'all. Well,
I'm from Florida. I'm a Florexian.
He says he's a Dolphins fan, but we tried to talk about the Dolphins beforehand. He's like, they're not even on my radar. So
I said I want to wait and see what they do this game, because they did good last game, but they got to prove themselves again. Yeah. Otherwise, they're on the outhouse.
Yo, look. They're better than the Saints. The Saints only won one game. Let me tell y'all, Saints are terrible. But anyway, that's all we got, guys. We will catch y'all next week. As I said, next week is the last episode, but it's gonna be you don't want to miss it. We'll catch y'all next time.